welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. We've got much to discuss today. And today we're going to be circling back to our conversation about celebrity children. You guys know I have my theories. There's a lot of celebrity children standing out in many different ways. I feel like the two main routes for celeb kids are like Nepo baby, really stick to an industry of your choice, leverage the advantages that you have with your parents to make your way into some new place, or there's like the fall into obscurity and try to find an identity type of celebrity kid. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be talking about the latter today in a story surrounding Violet Affleck, who is Ben Affleck's and Jennifer Garner's daughter. And Violet recently went and did a little bit of a speech as a Los Angeles voter in talking about COVID, the long-term effects of COVID, things like long COVID, post-viral issues after having a COVID or any other virus. And she was at this a meeting that was open for public comment in Los Angeles. And she had a little speech to give about masks and masks mandates while wearing one and advocating for them. We're going to watch that and then analyze our young Violet Affleck and give a little bit of a theory as to why we're seeing videos like this now from her. Let's watch.
Hi, Violet Affleck, Los Angeles resident, first-time voter. I'm 18. I contracted a post-viral condition in 2019. I'm okay now, but I saw firsthand that medicine does not always have answers to the consequences of even minor viruses. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown that into sharper relief. 1 in 10 infections leads to long COVID, which is a devastating neurological cardiovascular illness that can take away people's ability to work, move, see, and even think, stands to exacerbate our homelessness crisis, as well as the suffering of many people in our city. It hits communities of color, disabled people, elderly people, trans people, women, and anyone in a public-facing essential job the hardest. To confront the long COVID crisis, I demand mask availability, air filtration, and far UVC light in government facilities, including jails and detention centers, and mask mandates in county medical facilities. We must expand the availability of high-quality free tests and treatment, and most importantly, the county must oppose mask bans for any reason. They do not keep us safer. They make vulnerable members of our community less safe and make everyone less able to participate in Los Angeles together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oof. I feel like I just got a fire hose of words from this young woman. I would advise her to slow down a little bit. Now, I get when you're at some of these meetings, and this one in particular, let me read, this is the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors meeting. So you have an allotted amount of time that you can sort of give comment. Typically, it's around 2 minutes, although she got hers out in 1, okay? Fast-speaking queen. And she was, of course, advocating for more masking and particularly not allowing people to instate mask bans. She wants air filtration systems put in all the different government facilities that exist in Los Angeles. And she herself claims to have experienced a post-viral symptoms upon having COVID, presumably. Now, I don't know about this whole stat that 1 in 10 people infected with COVID experienced long COVID, and long COVID's all over the board and people claim to have it. And I think the other day I saw a woman who said she had to shave her head because the symptoms of long COVID were making it so she could not get out of bed, that she was so sensitive to light, she could not even brush her hair. And I imagine there are these post-viral issues and symptoms that people experience. I need somebody to let me know whether or not it's 1 in 10. But she goes on to say this has a deep impact on people of color and trans people and the homelessness community. And she's throwing out all these words, and she threw them out so quickly that I think we're actually going to have to go back over some of this 1 minute speech. I know you guys are going to love it. Let's hear that again a little bit.
The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown that into sharper relief. 1 in 10 infections leads to long COVID, which is a devastating neurological cardiovascular illness that can take away people's ability to work, move, see, and even think, stands to exacerbate our homelessness crisis, as well as the suffering of many people in our city. It hits communities of color, disabled people, elderly people, trans people, women, and anyone in a public-facing essential job the hardest.
Okay. hits communities of color, elderly, disabled, trans people. Like, we're hitting every single intersectional, marginalized group we can possibly throw into this speech. And you know what? At first I'm like, okay, let me hear this girl out. You know, long COVID, I don't know much about it. Post-viral illness, I don't know much about that. Let's see what she has to say. Then she's beatboxing black, trans, disabled, elderly, homeless stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can see through to what you actually are and what you're advocating for. And unfortunately, I think we have seen that another celebrity child has become a woke activist. We can add her to the laundry list of children that are sort of going down the pipeline, shall we call it, of this ideology. Now, as for the air filtration systems and the mask bans and the mandates and this and that, I don't know that it's all necessary, baby girl. And I can understand that, yeah, people do experience severe effects of COVID and other viruses. I don't know that that means every single government facility has to go down this path that you're advocating for at this Board of Supervisors meeting, and that the whole world, again, needs to sort of bend to your whim, as we did during the pandemic, and we all saw how that came out. There's just a special type of individual, I think, that is still like running around masked up and advocating that other people wear a mask and calling out people who have issues with masks and wanting these like mass air filtration systems. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. I don't know what it is.
Also, what year is it? This video, or what she's saying, are things that I remember hearing, 3-4 years ago, and all of a sudden we are right back into. I should be glad I'm safely social distancing here from Nashville today, and
yes,
not there with you, because heaven forbid that the virus be spreading all over Los Angeles, which is apparently her worst nightmare.
Right. And she is like constantly walking around all masked up, and the whole deal. There's that certain group of people that still adhere to it. I don't know if she has some sort of immune deficiency or problem, or she's consistently being sick. Maybe it is within her best interest to remain masked up, but I have a feeling it's more of a moral statement than it is an actual safety precaution in her personal life. And I have stories, okay? And I can't even share the stories with you right now, which is the frustrating part. But I have stories about Ben Affleck and Miss Violet Affleck. And it corroborates what I'm saying right now about their personalities and their dispositions, and what I'm going to continue to say about their personalities and dispositions. Just trust. Your girl knows that this girl has some issues and some work to do. And the reason I'm not gonna come down on Violet Affleck in any way is that she reminds me so much of my younger self. That's one. And two, she is just a product, I think, of her parents being Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. And I feel like the conditions of her environment have led to the decisions she's making now, the way she's speaking now, the worldview that she has now, and we'll substantiate that as we continue to talk about them. It's almost like I'm watching somebody with a reflex. It's like it's not even your own choice. You've just been conditioned down this path of what you're saying right now and what you're regurgitating. And we see it in the personalities of Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. Not to mention that, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner were married after he was already, engaged in a whole relationship with J-Lo. He leaves Jennifer Garner. He gets back into a relationship with J-Lo. And there's kids in the mix here. I think Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner, there's 3 kids there. There's a Serafina, who is now Finn. Okay. And Serafina is now Finn because they've come out as non-binary and they're using the they, them pronouns and all this stuff. There's Violet, who is still wearing a COVID mask and is going to the government in 2024 to advocate for air filtration systems and mask mandates. And then on the J-Lo side, J-Lo has a child named Emmy, and Emmy is going by they, them pronouns. How is it that among these people, Jennifer Garner, Ben Affleck, and J-Lo, they got 3 kids that are down a questionable path with the things that they believe and with their identities? And why is it that they're so concentrated within this family? I'll leave the question with you. We're going to answer it a little bit later. Now, people are cheering on Violet Affleck and saying, oh, she's so impassioned. This is so wonderful. We'll read you some tweets here. This is a headline from CNN. It says, Violet Affleck makes impassioned plea for masks after revealing she contracted a post-viral condition in 2019. So 5 years later, she's calling for those masks to come back. And Lucky Tran here on X says, Violet Affleck's public comment on masks and long COVID is all over the news. This is how you leverage your privilege. Imagine if other celebrities did the same. Imagine if we just got a bunch of celebrity Nepo babies going to different Los Angeles Board of Supervisors meeting and telling us how we should be living our lives and masking and advocating for this sort of ideology. What a wonderful way to leverage your privilege. I'll say it right now. I would rather the Nepo babies go back into Hollywood. Just keep the cycle going, please. Please do not make a sharp right turn into telling me how I need to live my life and to advocating on issues that are personal to you. I would much rather prefer somebody get an undeserved Hollywood film career or somebody get an undeserved musical career and just watch the Nepo babies flourish in their leveraged privilege in that way. Please, I beg of you. And more people, of course, are commenting. This says, I want to be Violet's bestie. At 18, she has more courage than some people will ever have in their entire lifetimes. I wish more celebrities had the courage of Violet Affleck. She's only 18 years old and is doing more than any politician. She's doing more than any politician by just going to this meeting and speaking for 1 minute. Violet Affleck is Ben Affleck's daughter. She continues to be even more impressive as a teenager. I can't wait to see what she does as an adult. Extremely impressive how she fit that all into 1 minute. I hope Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck are very proud. And no doubt, I do think they're very proud. And now, let's move on to analysis on this subject. We've spoken about celeb kids, and mainly through the lens of transness and non-binary-ness. And I wrote a list for you guys of all the different celebrities that have trans non-binary kids, which sort of tells you what their political ideology is, largely. I don't think we need to worry too much about guessing there. There's Angelina Jolie, Dwayne Wade Gabrielle Union, Jamie Lee Curtis, Megan Fox, Gwyneth Paltrow, Marsha Gay Harden, Elon Musk, Naomi Watts, Sigourney Weaver, Busy Phillips, Marlon Wayans, Charlize Theron, Cher, Rosie O'Donnell, all on that list have, the trans non-binary thing going on with their children. And we spoke about how that happens and asked the question, why is it so concentrated within Hollywood and within the children of Hollywood? And I theorized that maybe it's because when you're living in the shadow of a celebrity parent and you're seeing them get all of this constant attention and praise, you either have the option to follow that celebrity parent and build a name of your own and a career of your own and try to meet that very same stature, which is a very difficult thing to do, even as a Nepo baby, or you have the option to distance yourself as much as you possibly can from the parent and build an identity that is unique to you, that sort of can stand on its own. And a lot of children, I think, get confused that a trans and non-binary identity is going to give them that. On the other end, or in a similar end, I think you could also think, I'm going to be an activist and I'm going to throw myself into that world. And that's how I'm going to build a name that's separate from my parents, that maybe people value in a different light. And I'm going to fight down that path. And I feel like that's what's happening with Violet Affleck. And when I think about the personalities of Jennifer Garner, Ben Affleck, and J-Lo, who she's probably now spending a considerable amount of time with, one word comes to mind, and that is narcissism. And if you have 3 narcissists and a child, what are the tendencies that child's going to pick up? If you have 3 people, adults, who are always me all the time, that's going to be the behavior that you push out and, exude into the world, because that's all that you know, and you have to find a way to distinguish yourself. And that's got to be a massive struggle on her part and on the part of all these celebrity children, although people don't have a lot of sympathy for that argument and for hearing about the Nepo babies of the world because they have that privilege that they were born with. Now I'm going to show some clips, and you might think, Amala, these clips are totally unrelated. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You are going leaps and bounds to substantiate this, but I'm going to do it nonetheless. This is Jennifer Garner on Conan O'Brien's show, and this is a short clip. I think this was, I don't even know how many years ago this was, but she's going to correct him on something he says here. And I just want you to let it speak to maybe her personality and her character.
But there's a time when you snuck into the room to see what the...
I sneaked into the room. Snuck isn't a word, Conan, and you went to Harvard and you should know that.
There's a...
Pause. Okay. Now, I'm a self-proclaimed... No, I'm not. I'm not a self-proclaimed expert in any of this, but I love to look at people's body language and just look at Jennifer Garner right now. The unmet gaze, okay? She's sitting here, she's looking down, she's fidgeting with her little heel, the chest is up, she feels so good about what she just said, confronting this man and telling him, guys, let's listen to this. Snuck is not a word, is what she told this man. She said, snuck is not a word. Then she went on to say, and you went to Harvard. You should know that. Okay, let's watch the rest of the clip.
I'm sorry, wait, there's a... I keep a dictionary down here and I just found it. Just want to look at... Oh, what the hell? Look right here. Snuck, past and past part of sneak.
There you go. So there's the clip. Now, funnily enough, all the comments on this YouTube video are like, shout out to Conan for being so gracious in his interpretation of what she was trying to do, which was go onto somebody else's show with their name on the line and correct them in front of an audience to sort of make yourself be this sort of pretentious know-it-all in front of him. And it backfires. And he could have really shoved that in her face. But because he is a great host, he decided to humble her, but do it respectfully and add a little, maniacal laugh at the end to make sure that the audience came down and she didn't feel too embarrassed about it. He handled that properly. But just think about what it says about her personality and who she is. And again, I can substantiate it, but I can't tell you the stories right now of why I know this about them. That's one late night clip. Taylor, you look like you had something to say.
Just first of all, Conan's a G. I just can't help but think that he understood the assignment, and a narcissist is not capable of doing that. So Hollywood actors who tend to be narcissists, usually they're reading a script. They don't have the opportunity to go off the cuff and speak from their own voice. And when they do, what comes out is the narcissism. So she's there on the show. Conan understands, hey, this is a late night show, opportunity to entertain the world, be comedic, be funny. And that's really the purpose of this interview. And then, usually the actor's on there to promote whatever movie that they're on and make themselves look better from a PR standpoint and hopefully come off as personable. But instead, she just, I guess, let the mask down or wasn't aware that she had it. And you get that very candid view of what you can only be described as narcissism.
Yeah, and I think about this, we're gonna go even further and analyze this short's little, we shouldn't even call it a conflict, it's not necessarily a conflict. But there are these therapists, Julie and John Gottman, and they study relationships between people. And specifically, they've been able to basically assess a couple as they're talking to one another. And based on their own techniques and things that they develop, they'll notice signs in couples and be able to predict with a lot of accuracy whether or not these couples are gonna be successful. And they came up with something called the 4 horsemen, and it's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, essentially, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you are communicating with them. And these are ways that we communicate improperly that lead to the breakdown of our relationships. So there is criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, and then the 4th horseman is contempt. And out of those 4, contempt is like the worst possible way that you can communicate with somebody and will lead to the most breakdown within a relationship. And that's exactly what she did in this clip. She not only met him with criticism by saying snuck is not a word, but the contempt in you went to Harvard and you should know that is just an extra dig in. And to do that with somebody who you do not know, who you've just appeared on the show on, is really an interesting choice to make. And if she's doing that on a live show in front of an entire audience, what is she doing with people who she does know? Okay, and people who she does have intimate relationships with? Just ask yourself that. I might be overthinking. I don't care. We're gonna move on to another late night show, okay? And now we're gonna move over to Ben. And this is a longer clip, and you guys should know the clip I'm about to show you right now. When people think Ben Affleck, I think they think of this clip in particular. And it features him, Sam Harris, Bill Maher, and a couple of other guests on Real Time with Bill Maher. And the discussion is surrounding the topic of Islam, and particularly radical Islam. Now, I want to get you to gauge Ben's behavior and think about these 2 people creating a child.
So the other thing we want to talk about, of course, is that you and I have been trying to make the case, I think, I have anyway, that liberals need to stand up for liberal principles. This is what I said on last week's show. Obviously, I got a lot of hate for it. But all I'm saying is that liberal principles like freedom of speech, freedom to practice any religion you want without fear of violence, freedom to leave a religion, equality for women, equality for minorities, including homosexuals. These are liberal principles that liberals applaud for, but then when you say in the Muslim world this is what's lacking, then they get upset.
Yeah. Well, liberals have really failed on the topic of theocracy. They'll criticize white theocracy. They'll criticize Christians. They'll still get agitated over the abortion clinic bombing that happened in 1984. But when you want to talk about the treatment of women and homosexuals and free thinkers and public intellectuals in the Muslim world, I would argue that liberals have failed us. And the crucial point of confusion, thank you.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is it's intellectually ridiculous.
Okay. Really note what Sam Harris just said there. Every criticism of Islam gets conflated to be a criticism of the entire group of people, meaning all Muslims, all from the Middle East. You get the gist. Remember that, mark it in your brain, and continue listening to this clip.
So hold on, are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is...
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Okay, Bill just needs to step out of the conversation and let Sam Harris and Ben speak. Because that was misspoken, but continue.
No,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people, and that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
That's big of you. Contempt. Mark it. Number 1.
But why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like
criticism.
saying
those
statements, shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles.
Right.
Like
Defensiveness. Okay, we're at three of the 4 horsemen right now. And the last is stonewalling. We'll see if we can get it. It's a little difficult to get stonewalling on a talk show where you're meant to be engaging, but we'll see.
Freedom of speech, like, we are endowed by our forefathers with an inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
And we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have ideas like blasphemy.
It's an ugly
apostasy.
It is one basic liberal principle of tolerance.
Let me unpack it.
But not for intolerance.
No, of course not. But the picture you're painting is, to some extent, true, but is hugely incomplete. It is certainly true that plenty of fanatics and jihadis are Muslim, but the people who are standing up to them, Malala, incredible Muhammad Ali Dadak in Iran, in prison for 9 years for speaking up for Christians. A friend that I had in Pakistan who was shot this year, Rashid Rahman, for defending people accused of apostasy.
Or how about the more than 1 billion people who aren't
Muslims
fanatical, who don't punch women, who just want to go to the store,
wait a second. Wait a second.
Wait don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims
wait a second.
stereotyping.
Wait a second.
Things, and you're painting the whole religion with that.
No, let's get.
Oop. Okay. So earlier we noted that Sam Harris said, the issue is that if I make a criticism of Islam, people conflate it with labeling the whole group. Ben Affleck turned around less than 2 minutes later and just accused him of launching a critical attack on the entire group of people. So this is just amazing to watch it happen in real time and watch somebody have so many blockages that they can't even speak to. They in fact prove actually the point that the person made not even 2 minutes earlier in the conversation. He is not listening whatsoever. He is just there to respond. He is just there to critique, and he thinks he's killing it at this point right now in the conversation.
Down to who has the right answer here. 1 billion people, you say. All these billion people don't hold any of these...
1,500,000 or something.
Don't hold these pernicious beliefs?
No,
I would...
well, they don't.
That's just not true, Ben. That's just not true.
Can I just express how I think it breaks down in terms of
the idea...
You haven't even defined
you're trying to say that these few people, that's all the problem is, these few bad apples. The idea that someone should be killed if they leave...
That's horrible. That should
wait. You're saying that the idea that someone should be killed if they leave the Islamic religion is just a few bad apples?
The people who would actually believe and enact that you murder somebody if they leave Islam is not the majority of Muslims at all.
Okay, let me break this down for you. Okay, we have, as you say, we have 1.5, 1.6 billion Muslims. Now,
second biggest religion in the world, a quarter.
Well, Ben, let me unpack this.
Let somebody speak, particularly the person who has studied the religion for his entire career. And who is Ben Affleck? What does he know? What does he know about Islam? And more importantly than that, radical Islam.
Let me unpack this for you.
Please do. We have
just imagine some
contempt.
Concentric circles here. You have at the center, you have jihadists. These are people who wake up in the morning wanting to kill apostates, wanting to die trying. They believe in paradise. They believe in martyrdom. Outside of them, we have Islamists. These are people who are just as convinced of martyrdom and paradise and wanting to foist their religion on the rest of humanity, but they want to work within the system. They're not going to blow themselves up on a bus. They want to change governments. They want to use democracy against itself. Those two circles arguably are 20% of the Muslim world. Okay, this is not the fringe of the fringe.
What are you basing that research on?
A bunch of poll results that we can talk about. So to give you one point of contact, 78% of British Muslims think that the Danish cartoonist should have been prosecuted. 78%. So I'm being conservative when I roll this back to 20%. But outside of that circle, you have conservative Muslims who can honestly look at ISIS and say that does not represent us, that we're horrified by that, but they hold views about human rights and about women, about homosexuals that are deeply troubling. So these are not Islamists, they're not jihadists, but they
those views are anathema to ours.
But they also keep women and homosexuals immiserated in these cultures, and we have to empower the true reformers in the Muslim world to change it. And lying about the link between doctrine and behavior is not going to do that.
Contempt.
But the Great Divide. The Great Divide.
So Sam Harris just largely substantiated the entire point of everything that he's talking about with real facts, with real numbers. Ben Affleck couldn't even allow him to get the numbers out and instead was pushing to somebody else to talk. Now, again, remember this guy is a father. Remember that Jennifer Garner is the mother. Remember that J-Lo is now the stepmom. And think about the recipe for disaster. The genetic recipe for disaster. It's not genetic, okay? This is socialized. But the socialized recipe for disaster in these individuals choosing to come together and create children.
Is not between Islam and the rest. It's rather between the fundamentalists and the moderates in each faith.
Okay, but we're misled to think that the fundamentalists are the fringe. Okay, we have jihadists, Islamists, and conservatives.
Well, and by the way,
hundreds of millions of people fit that description.
You're saying that the strongest voices are coming from those who are jihadists and extremists, and that represents a bigger piece of the pie than we often think is true.
There's no question.
Okay, so having said that, and even if that is
Look at Ben Affleck. Let me take my face actually off of this. Look at the body language again. We saw the pretentious body language with Jennifer Garner, but look at this almost like a kid who you've just screamed at for having his hand in the cookie jar posturing of like, you know you've been caught, but the defensiveness, the anger, the contempt, the criticism that you want to levy towards this person, you can't hold it in. He's literally hunched over himself. And it's great because you get to juxtapose it with the other more mature men who are sitting at the table, some of whom share his belief and share his mindset on this. This like childish demeanor that he can't help but carry even in his body language is so apparent. Crazy. This should be a case study in how not to argue, how not to debate.
It's true, statistically or otherwise. The key thing to recognize that I don't think is part of the argument, but I think should be, is that there are voices that are oftentimes raised in...
Can I give him the 4th point for stonewalling at this point, just with the way that he's posturing? I want to make sure he gets all... 3 out of 4 is already doing well enough when it comes to those metrics, but I feel like I can give him a 4th just for how horribly he is presenting himself.
Opposition to these jihadists and to these extreme acts. But guess what? They don't get covered. They don't get exposed. And they're not given the same level of platform that we see the jihadists.
One reason they don't get exposed is because they're afraid to speak out, because it's the only religion that acts like the mafia that will fucking kill you if you say the wrong thing, draw the wrong picture, or write the wrong book.
So you do have,
there's a reason why Ayaan Hirsi Ali needs bodyguards 24/7.
You do have that element of fear as well, but you also have other braver souls out there who do speak out and who who
are risking their lives to do that.
Speak out against what? Speak out against what has been established as the majority. And if you cannot connect that point and be able to be mindful of that and to humbly admit that what they're saying is true, there is an issue here. And it's interesting because we've been talking about immigration for like the past week and a half on this show, and it's all been coming to a boiling point as we're seeing mass immigration, not only in Europe, here in the US, in the West in general. And the people who are pushing back on this idea that we need to get a handle on mass immigration are the 3 people who you are looking at in this still right here. It is this sort of ideology, this idea that criticism of religious beliefs and the way that religious beliefs impact our culture is somehow Islamophobic. That is the problem. When you hold these beliefs, you allow for all this like mania and chaos that we're seeing right now across the West. And it's because they feel some sort of moral virtue in defending things that are largely indefensible, and that the West has codified into law or indefensible. Yet they are here trying somehow to defend it in the name of moral relativism and multiculturalism, even though they're coming down and saying, oh no, these things are not correct. I don't agree with them. They're not okay. These are heinous crimes and crimes against humanity at that. Okay. Well, then let's talk about who believes them. Let's talk about who supports that and what we can do about the issue. But so long as we cannot find common ground on that, we will never make progress in the direction of stopping radical religious ideology of any kind from impacting our current humanity.
Like the Muslim clerics and others from Australia to Europe to the United States just recently publicly put their names on paper declaring their opposition to what ISIS and others are doing. So there are those voices, but where was the coverage? Where was that story to sort of create a different picture?
What do you mean, where is the coverage? We talked about Masih Alinejad on this program, who's getting a ton of coverage and speaking out against Iran in the hijab and the laws that are holding down women and oppressing them and telling them that they have to cover up their hair and their bodies day in and day out. Malala was a huge story here in the US. You know where she wasn't? A huge story in the Middle East, where she was almost murdered for getting an education. It's just, wild. And even if we do really lift up the stories of people from Muslim countries who are speaking out against the culture and the religious dogma and the way that it is enforced on people in these countries, that does not then invalidate the fact that the majority of people who are adherent to this religion believe some of the more radical ideas that are leading to the oppression of people. They can both exist in the same realm, and in fact, they do.
What is your solution? What is your ask?
No,
just condemn Islam?
The solution. The solution is very much what
we've killed more Muslims than they've killed us by an awful lot. We've invaded more Muslims.
I'm not for more killing.
An awful lot. And yet somehow we're exempted from these things because they're not really a reflection of what we believe in. We did it by accident. That's why we invaded Iraq and put 4 million.
We're not convincing anybody.
Defensive.
It's not I'm specifically telling you that I disagree with what you think.
I know, and we're obviously not convincing anybody of you.
If you don't understand my argument,
your argument is like, black people, they show each other.
That is not my argument.
No,
his argument, what Ben Affleck said is, your argument is black people, they shoot each other. I don't know which one of the four horsemen that is, but maybe we need to develop a new one where it's just you take somebody's words and you twist it and contort it to whatever it is that you felt you wanted to hear, and then you throw it back at them.
It's not. It's based on facts. I can show you a Pew poll of Egyptians. They are not outliers in the Muslim world that say like 90% of them believe death is the appropriate response to leaving the religion. If 90% of Brazilians thought that death was the appropriate response to leaving Catholicism, you would think it was a bigger deal.
I would think it's a big deal no matter what.
Okay, but that's the fact.
But what I wouldn't do is say it's all
defensiveness.
All Brazilians, or I wouldn't say, well, Ted Bundy did this. Goddamn, these gays are all trying to eat each other.
Okay, let me just give you what you want. There are hundreds of millions of Muslims.
I think he misspoke. He didn't mean Ted Bundy. He meant Jeffrey Dahmer. He said, if I saw Jeffrey Dahmer, I wouldn't think that all the gays are trying to eat each other. You might start making statements that are sort of in that realm if 70 to 90% of gays said that they supported cannibalism. Do you understand, Ben Affleck, where you went wrong here? And this was 10 years ago, I think 9 years ago. Hopefully he's sort of made some ground on this, although I don't think he has. But if you knew the type of people that Ben Affleck in his current life right now is kissing up to, given the state of his current ideology, you would see how much of a snake this man actually is.
Muslims who are nominal Muslims, who don't take the faith seriously, who don't want to kill apostates, who are horrified by ISIS, and we need to defend these people, prop them up, and let them reform.
Dude, you're talking ISIS couldn't fill a AA ballpark in Charleston, West Virginia, and you were making a career out of ISIS.
But no, it's not just ISIS. It's all jihadists. It's global. It's a phenomenon of global jihad.
I think that's the opposite.
There is those things. There's ISIS. There's global jihadists. The question is the degree to which you're willing to say, because I've witnessed this behavior, which we all object to on the part of these people, I'm willing to flatly condemn those of you I don't know and have never met.
No,
this is based.
Which just never happened, and again speaks to Sam Harris's initial point of, if I give criticism of Islam, you will think I'm criticizing all Muslims.
I mean, people, it's ideas.
And,
gotta make
and people who believe in those ideas.
So those people who believe
based on reality, Ben. We're not making it up. That in the Muslim world, it is mainstream belief.
But this is such a character.
I need to see just Ben Affleck and Sam Harris get together to really hash this out, because you have a clearly delusional, angry guy in Ben Affleck who's full of contempt. And then you have Sam Harris that really, no matter what you throw at him, is going to maintain this very calm demeanor, unless you bring up like Donald Trump, then we go off the deep end a little bit. But other than that, Sam Harris remains relatively calm. Bill Maher's energy of coming into the debate and screaming or yelling on top of Ben Affleck, or giving these very impassioned responses to him, actually it doesn't factually delegitimize what they're saying, but the energy of it sort of delegitimizes the very valid and calm points that Sam Harris is trying to make. So I wish it was just the two of them, so that you could see Ben Affleck just freaking out to somebody who is just a wall of reason in calmness. And that's not to say that anything that Bill Maher is saying is wrong. He's most definitely correct in his analysis.
Caricature of Indonesia, of Malaysia, so much of the world. And this does have the tinge a little bit of the way white racists talk about African Americans and define blacks by
what you're saying is because they are a minority, we shouldn't we shouldn't criticize.
Not that much of a minority, the second biggest religion in the world.
Exactly, but you're treating them like a minority. I mean, if Filipinos were capturing teenagers and sending them into white slavery, we would criticize that. We wouldn't say, well, they're
criticize the
Filipinos.
people who are doing it, not the Philippines. You know what I mean?
Well, what if the people
As a Filipino kid lives down the street from you would have nothing to do with that. So these are different things. Crazy
Racial
people.
stereotyping.
I think
All
it
right.
goes.
Let's talk. We mentioned ISIS. Let's talk.
There you go. That's the end of that clip. And you watched 10 minutes of somebody getting absolutely nowhere in a conversation, maintaining the first point that they thought and the first characterization that they had of the people sitting across from them, and just held it with all his might until the very end. Now, when you see the Violet Affleck video of her speaking at the Board of Supervisors, you're like, oh yeah, well, that totally makes sense. And in fact, she's a far less, consequential individual in comparison to maybe the people that raised her.
But the seeds are there. You can see them blossoming and coming to be. My biggest thought in watching that clip was, at what point does this sort of utopian view of this multicultural global society in which everyone really does share the same values, even if their lives and actions demonstrate that they don't, but at what point does that view become a religion itself? Because that's kind of what you're hearing from the left side of the table, I guess, on your screen, was just this constant insistence that no, we need to ignore the facts, the reality on the ground, as Sam is describing them and laying them out so articulately, and as Bill is kind of helping him lay that out. But there's nothing that can sort of break that spell. They're so enamored with this sense that the world is just this, rosy place, and it just really does reek of the same ideology that we've seen over and over again in recent years, especially with the Black Lives Matter pandering and the Pride pandering that we see every year. It's this intersectional view of the world that if people are from so-called minority or oppressed or those categories, then they cannot be criticized. And that itself is tantamount to basically a religious view of the world, that you already know what you believe about this. You already know the right from wrong, and you don't need to look at the facts with nuance or analyze people's behavior on the merits or have any set of objective principles that apply equally no matter who's committing them, that you can actually make judgments based off of. Your view of the world is poisoned by this ideology, and I think that's why it's so frustrating and angering to what you're watching you're watching Ben Affleck experience such frustration and anger, because when your worldview is out of sync with reality, of course, that's going to create cognitive dissonance, and that might manifest itself emotionally as well, because you now feel this need to assert your beliefs over reality when reality is assaulting your beliefs.
Right. It's like, I don't think that a lot of people say, wokeness is a new religion. I don't think that it's necessarily a religion in itself, but it is certainly dogmatic in the same way that religion can become dogmatic, and very much in a lot of ways is dogmatic. And it's crazy to see this there's almost like a wool pulled over the eyes, that no matter what, you will just adhere to whatever it is that you believe. And of course, a lot of religious people experience that as well. And it's just wild to see. I know we all have our own blinders and things that we're blocked on, and things that we can trigger to make ourselves defensive or full of criticism and contempt, and these sort of four horsemen things that we talked about. But my goodness, should you give all your efforts to alleviating that as much as you can in life. And we all go through the struggle with our own subjects of things that can be brought up and lead to a reaction like this. But, oh my gosh, I would make it my life's journey to never be so subservient to these feelings that I can't get through an actual conversation to learn something on the other end of it. And goodness gracious, it's difficult. But man, at the very least, I hope in the moments in my life where these things happen, I don't have them happen on live television. That's what I hope for myself. And fingers
statement
crossed.
from someone who's live 3 times a week.
Yeah, right. Hopefully you never catch me in a moment like this, live on air. So with that being said, and with the groundwork being laid for the Ben Afflecks and the Jennifer Garners and the J-Los, I don't even need to tell you what J-Lo's like. We all know that nobody loves J-Lo like J-Lo loves J-Lo. So with that being said, this sort of the narcissistic traits that are represented in these people, the 4 horsemen traits that are represented in these people, think about bestowing that upon a child and then just giving a healthy dash of celebrity, fame, status, money. It's a recipe for disaster with children. And I think that's why we see these kids who pop up and either take probably the most natural route, which is like the nepotism route of trying to find their way into whatever industry of interest they have. Or you go, mom and dad are this, and they're getting all this attention and all this praise, and I need to find a way to distinguish myself. And I don't necessarily have the tools right now as a young person to distinguish myself in any sort of substantial way, but I remain in the public eye all the time. If you are the child of a celebrity, you have paparazzi who are constantly showing up when you guys are out doing things. People want to hear your opinions. They want to hear about your parents. You're given a certain amount of value at an age where really people should just be left alone to experience the world, have a little bit of privacy to learn about themselves, to make mistakes, and can grow into adults where they can start making decisions about ushering themselves out into the public eye if that's what they want to do. That is largely robbed from celebrity children. And if you have very little identity, plus you're being foisted out in front of millions of eyes of people who want to hear what you have to say, you're going to have to find a way to make yourself unique. And that's going to be they, them pronouns. It's going to be trans this, non-binary that. It's going to be making statements of activism because the other Nepo babies won't do it and I have something to advocate for. It's going to manifest, I think, in these ways as a means of just creating a persona surrounding yourself. So Homegirl's 18. I had just realized, oh, okay, maybe I'm not as woke as I once thought I was at 18. I don't know what's going to go on with young Violet, but I do know how the parents maybe played a role in what we're seeing now from the 18-year-old who is walking around masked up and advocating that government facilities and jails and detention centers have air filtration systems for post-viral symptoms and is calling out people who want, I guess, mask bans and don't want to have a piece of fabric over their face at all times that keeps you from seeing people's faces, seeing their emotions. One more thing. You got to think about, okay, obviously there are the people who are like hypochondriacs and worried about health and viruses and maybe experience something horrible and they want to wear a mask. And in a lot of ways, I can understand you make your own choice. It's a personal decision. I think there's something underlying. There's got to be some other reason that this mask has become beneficial to your life. And in the life of a celebrity kid who's constantly being photographed and is being watched and is in the light of Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, and J-Lo, 3 people who are known to be considerably attractive, and they want to see what the kids turn out as. The mask would probably be a great thing to you, a great tool of like, I can cover my face right now and just lead with my words and still get the whole Affleck treatment, but without having to really show myself for the judgment that celebrities and celebrity children take on. So while maybe she did experience post-viral symptoms and long COVID or whatever it is that she's claiming, I think there's other benefits that she gets from advocating for masks in this world, and she maybe doesn't want to be the only one out there doing it.
That's a physical manifestation of the arrested development of her socialization. We're going full on psychoanalysis right now, but I'm just sitting here trying to imagine what Thanksgiving dinner is going to be like at the Affleck, Lopez, Garner household. I'm sure they probably don't all eat together, but my goodness, do you have to keep a mask on in between bites and social distance and get everyone's pronouns appropriately? And I mean, I can only imagine if they have dietary restrictions as well, what's going on with that. So just a delightful, not to mention the conversation, it just has to be absolutely delightful.
Dude, I could not think of a worse like nightmare blunt rotation than Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, J-Lo. That is a nightmare blunt rotation, guys. There are three people you never want to be having dinner with or anything like that. I just can't. I just picture like three people constantly talking over each other to talk about themselves and like the wonderful things that they're doing and how they're so smart and so virtuous. And it's no wonder that it's manifested in a child who does the same.
Jennifer Garner correcting everyone's grammar, and Ben Affleck just staying very logical with all of his arguments. Just sounds great.
And J-Lo talking about the next movie that she's making about herself and how like she's deserved Academy Awards and Oscars and people should take her more seriously. My goodness. We are all over the place. But yeah, we'll see. As I said before, I would hope people would just take the Nepo baby route. We were going to talk about some other Nepo babies, like LeBron James' child is now in the NBA, which I don't know a lot about the NBA, but I imagine that's got to be tough. Taylor says he's not stacking up anywhere near, first of all, not anywhere near LeBron James, but also not anywhere near the other players in the NBA. So that's even tougher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge NBA guy. I jumped on the Wolves bandwagon this year, but I do kind of feel for Bronny. I mean, you can only be so sympathetic when he's already a millionaire at is he 18, 20 years old, not even, and his dad's LeBron James. He's had this awesome life, but like you're talking about with this whole journey of the children of celebrities, like him in particular, he's been trained from day one his whole life by his father, who's the greatest basketball player of his generation. MJ's still the GOAT. But that in and of itself is not enough to carry him to where he can get drafted into the NBA on the merits. He has to have his dad basically use his influence to intervene to get him to be drafted to the Lakers, just so that his dad can be the first player in NBA history to play with his son on the court. Everyone knows that's what's going on. No one's really denying it. Stephen A is on the record. He's ESPN's premier basketball commentator in general. Premier I use liberally, but he's on the record saying that he shouldn't be drafted even, or he probably wouldn't likely have been if not for the influence of his father. So, that's a tough thing to step into the shoes of your father and live in that shadow. And I can only imagine developmentally what that's going to be. But I don't know as far as behaviorally how that's manifested. I guess time will tell.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to be, if you think about the life, his life in particular, of being the son of this giant and then going on into the NBA, there's not a lot of you're not getting a lot of choice. The choices are kind of made for you. And of course, I'm all about radical responsibility. You make your own choices for yourself. If he didn't want to be a part of the NBA and do basketball, I imagine he'd be able to make that choice for himself. But man, imagine you're born as a kid and everybody's just saying, when are you going to put a basketball in his hands? When's he going to, do his first game? How's he doing? How's the basketball? Is he going to be as tall as you? Is he as talented as you? And that's just constantly the thing that you have to think about and try to live up to. And then when you get there, you get sort of like a Nepo position in the NBA and you're not stacking up. And people have been commenting on this. I'm going to show you this quick Stephen A clip before we get into your super chats, guys. Because a lot of people have criticism for nepotism. And this is what Stephen A had to say about LeBron James' son being a Nepo baby within the NBA.
Let me say something a little deep with this. Forgive me. And if it gets to a point where I get personal with it, so be it. It's on me. We live in a country where nepotism has taken place with white folks religiously forever. We've said little to nothing about it. In the NBA specifically, in a league where at least 70% of the players are black, we've seen nepotism with white folks all over the place. Ownership, executive ranks, player personnel, scouting, coaching. The list goes on and on. We've said little to nothing about it. And now this happens with LeBron James, a member of the Mount Rushmore of basketball. And all of a sudden, you've got people running their mouths. LeBron James is approaching 40 years of age. He ain't somebody that faded into the twilight. He's still an all-world player.
Oh, so how much talent the person has will dictate whether or not it's acceptable to engage in nepotism. Right. Got it. Okay, so when white people do it, is what he's saying. He said when white people engage in nepotism, they get no criticism. But suddenly, LeBron James, one of the biggest players in basketball, does it, and he gets criticized. Guys, this is not the argument to make, okay? You certainly shouldn't make these things about race, and it literally does not make sense to. But even if you were going to make it about race, the question is nepotism and nepotistic treatment okay, or is it not? It doesn't matter the race of the person. It doesn't matter who they are. If a group of people is doling out uneven criticism and they're just criticizing black people who engage in nepotism and they're not criticizing white people, that's their own issue. It doesn't speak to whether or not nepotism is acceptable. And it sounds like what Stephen A is saying is, well, white people don't get criticized for it, so LeBron James should be able to do it too. And he's super talented. And the more talented you are and the more power you have within the league, the more you should be able to weaponize that power and use it for your own nepotistic gain. Make that make sense, Stephen A. I'll invite you on the program to substantiate what it is you're trying to talk about. And I don't know anything about the NBA. Okay? And I will still talk to you on this issue because you're making it about race and you're making it about the talent and how big of a guy LeBron James is within the league. That makes no sense whatsoever. What? Like, I don't understand. And I just realized his name is Bronny. Is his real name, is that his legal name?
That's a good question. I don't know if that's like actually his name, if it's LeBron Jr. or anything like that, but he's just been called Bronny forever.
Gosh, it's just even worse to have your dad be such like a big figure, and then you have just a nickname version of his name. Plus, they're trying to push you into the NBA with all their might, even though you're not ready to be there. Tough.
So tough. You know, Tiger Woods' son is Charlie, is a golfer. He's really good, and he's still too young to really know if he's going to be at that level. But you know, I can only imagine the chances that he will live up to his father's talent is almost zero. So it's just unfortunate that these kids get put in this position, but it sucks when the parents don't really help them by kind of enabling this cycle to continue.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'd like to think, what if I was a Nepo baby? What would I do? You best believe I'm utilizing the advantage, okay? It exists, you know, I'm going to utilize, I'm not going to have some moral high ground on using the advantages of your family members to get somewhere if that's where you want to be. So you know what? Nepo babies get a lot of hate. And I think more than hate, the stronger emotion is just envy. People wish they were born into the same positions as these people. And the Nepo baby line is long. The Nepo baby tree is ever expanding. There's been like really great articles written about Nepo babies and all the different industries that they infiltrate. And you've got a long list. Here's that article. You guys can check it out. It's like Maude Apatow and Zoe Kravitz, Ben Platt, Lily Collins, Dennis Quaid's son's here. I forget what his name even is, but he's a big actor. Dakota Johnson, Maya Hawke, Lily Rose Depp. The tree is just ever growing. And you know what? I can't blame him. And I think it's better than taking on a more falsified identity that some of these kids are finding themselves in. But how much choice do they really have in this?
We were trying to think before too, like who are the well-adjusted, maybe Nepo babies who might have had better opportunities than other people, but are also not intensely dislikable and actually are, you know, good people as far as we can tell. And any come to mind for you?
I don't know. There's so many. I don't know who they actually are in person, so I can't say whether or not I have one in mind. You know,
there's help us in the chat if you haven't.
There's no Nepo babies that I'm like I vehemently dislike them in any way, shape, or form. I don't have that same, I think, urge that a lot of people have towards bringing down people who have a leg up in life. I think we jump to wanting to bring them down and invalidate their achievements or the status that they have because of the advantages that they have. I don't feel that way. I just acknowledge that you have advantages. So it might have just been a little easier for you. That's it. It might have been a little easier for you. That's cool for you. Wish that was me, but it wasn't. And that's it. So yeah, I'm sure there's good and bad Nepo babies out there. Nothing specific comes to mind.
All right, y'all let us know if you have any in the chat. We were also talking before about how the prevalence of nepotism in especially the entertainment industry, music, TV, movies, is kind of an indictment a little bit on that industry as a whole. It's not that these actors just so happen to have kids who are just so talented that they couldn't be held back from the camera or the big screen or fame. It's often that industry is just based on who you know and whether the system gets behind you, whether you have the right opportunities. Not always, obviously there's talent that shines through and it's undeniable and emerges organically. But if you talk to anybody in the music industry or in entertainment in general, that's definitely a thing. So that lest we be ignorant of that, it's worth acknowledging. We did get a $50 super chat, which we must read immediately here from Rory Dow, who says, Bronny James, Emma Navarro, Jessica Pegula, billionaire parents who made great kids.
Oh, that's great. Love to hear it. Yeah, I feel like there's plenty of people capable of being born in these positions and then going on to do great things and be great people. And, I think most people are trying to do the right thing and hopefully do great things and can't knock them for having a little bit of help along the way. We're going to get into your guys' super chats on these topics.
Yes, and Timothy W. is our first one from today. He says, glad to be shouted out by Celtic Blacksmith on Monday. And yes, I can confirm I'm 100% on the Taylor Life Maxing train.
Love that. Life Max,
Love
guys.
That for you. Not just looks max everything. Good things, I should say. Timothy also says, also just saw the video on the 10 commandments in schools and Popula 5, 6, 7, 8 with that and left no crumbs. Keep going off, King. Also, black is your color.
Oh, your video.
He's referring to. I made a video the other day about this mandate in Oklahoma that they're mandating the Bible being taught in every classroom in the state. And that a Bible be present in every classroom in the state, which I guess would mean like even in chemistry and math. Like, I don't know exactly how that works. But anyways, I made a video saying, here's why some Christians would not support this measure. And you can go check that out. Search my name. And those are my hot takes. Which one? I'm sure Amala will agree with that one.
100%.
Religious leaning content.
100% I'll agree with that one.
Yeah. But I think it's important for Christians to stand up, on things like that when people are being dogmatic, like we spoke about before. So anyways, we can talk more about that at another time. Timothy, one more from him, says, you should reintroduce Taylor to the video because you didn't do it before. Oh, yeah.
I didn't do Taylor in Nashville today.
No, we didn't.
Wow. We have Taylor in Nashville.
And I'm here.
How did I miss that? That's crazy. Wow.
I think it caught a bunch of people in the chat off guard. Like, oh, Taylor is here. So
nice. Okay, surprise.
Oaxaca says, Amala, listen to her in 2X, LOL. The girl who's speaking very fast.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be tough to listen to Violet Affleck in 2X. That would be a rough one. It's like listening to Russell Brand in 2X.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Or Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a nod to the fact that you're always watching things in 2X and have to slow it down whenever.
True, I am. I mean, every single thing except Homegirl. I had to slow her down because I was like, what the hell is she saying?
Forearm Game is Strong says, hey there, A and Tay. Quick question. How was it for both of you introducing your significant other to your friends and family for the first time?
No problem at all for my family. But my family had gotten to know him because we'll be on the phone. I'll be on the phone with my grandmother and he'll come in and speak, or my mom, or, my sister or whatever. So they sort of knew him before they met him in person, which was great. But yeah, smooth sailing. It was smooth sailing when I met his family as well.
Yeah, my first time introducing my wife to my parents. At the time, we were in an it's complicated situationship, dare I say. Mm-hmm. And so my parents' reaction was like, what the heck, why aren't you like pursuing this more seriously? And they absolutely loved her. And so
I had to slap some sense into you.
Yeah, everybody did. It was a rough time, guys. It was a rough time. But we made it through. Yeah. Story has a happy ending.
Yeah.
Sazin Khan says, Amala, this is all in caps, by the way. I've been watching you since you started on PragerU-ish. I got a job and can finally donate. Anyway, just wanted to say thanks for existing. You changed my point of view for the better.
Oh, that is so sweet. Oh my gosh, that's so kind. Thank you so much. You've been around for a long time too. I don't even know when that would have been 4 years. I think 4 years now. Wow. OG. Thank you so much for your continued support.
Jasmine, Giesbrecht.
Okay.
Help me if I'm not saying that right. Hey, Amala, I love watching your show. Do you have any advice for the early dating stage? I just started seeing someone, and I think he's the one.
Ooh,
You're
advice.
You like this question. You love this question.
I got to think about this. Advice? Oh my goodness. I'm like, don't stay away from important conversations, and think about like, what are your big priorities? What are things that are important to you in a relationship? And just go straight there conversationally and talk about those things. What else? Don't place too much expectations on other people. Just trust people to be exactly who they're going to be and let things play out and ride out naturally and take things as they come. I don't know if I can give any more specific dating advice than that, because it's so tailored to like who you are and who they are and how your relationship is, that I would need to know more about your dynamics.
And your dating history can come into play too, because if you haven't gotten infatuated with someone before and made mistakes because you were blinded by being overly emotional or investing too early, because of that, then I mean, that's like a hard lesson to learn before you just learn it.
Yeah.
So I would just say, tread carefully and beware of your own ability to like project the, everything sunshine and roses with the other person and that they're the most perfect person ever. I think when you're younger, especially, that we all have that proclivity and you have to get over it. So
yeah. Even
if you are aware of that, it's probably still going to happen in some way or another, and you're just going to have to learn the hard way.
That's true. Everybody has their faults.
Not to be jaded and think that people have horrible underlying motives that they're not showing you either. It's vulnerable one way or another.
Yeah, it's just like finding out the quirks about somebody. There's nobody, in my opinion, that you like 100% jive with on everything all the time. And I think people have this perception that in relationships, you're meant to find the person who is every single thing that you want. He's clean. He's my best friend. He goes out dancing with me. We go play pickleball together. We go to concerts. We love the same movies. We love the same music, this and that. I'm like, okay, that's totally great if you think you have the person who is 100% of everything, but everybody's going to have their little inconsistencies with who you are. And, so long as you can deal with those and they accept the same inconsistencies that you have with them, that's a good deal. Yeah.
Trey Bannon says, I bet celebrity kids would be the kind of annoying narcissist to spam your video chats with sheer stupidity.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Some of them are talkers. I know that for sure. And some of them, I think you have an inflated sense of how much people want to hear what you have to say when so many people tell you that they want to hear what you have to say. And then it sort of goes on, which maybe it's not an inflated sense, it's a realistic sense, but you start to project that onto people who don't necessarily have that opinion of your views and what you have to say. And it can lead to things like what we saw with Violet Affleck.
I got to shout out Trey as well, because he, in the normal chat earlier, said, I wrote this down, or I copied and pasted it, so I didn't forget it. What's in your wallet? It contains a victim's card.
Oh, no. It's Jennifer Garner.
It's the Capital One.
It's the Capital One chick. Card. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, why do celebrities do that? Aren't you like chill? I'd rather just see Jennifer Garner in her movies than see you in a Capital One commercial. I'm like, why do y'all do that? I know you were getting millies for doing it and stuff.
Yeah, how much more money do you need to It's weird.
It taints the career, the discography,
Matthew
the filmography.
Riding around in his Lincoln.
Yeah, my gosh, please.
A chicken pork adobo says, people are so comfortable bashing Christians and so afraid of Islam because what the heck are Christians going to do? Forgive you?
Hey, if there's anything I'll say, I'll be even-handed in my criticism of your of your beliefs, whether they're religious or non-religious beliefs. I will be even-handed in my opinion on what it is that you believe. There is definitely, a disparity in who is able to be criticized in our current culture.
Yeah, equal opportunity critic here. Jasmine says, "Hi, Amala. I've been watching your stuff for a year now. Your name in Italian means love her. Many hugs and love from Italy. Keep up the good work."
That's so sweet. Yeah, somebody told me that recently, and I forget who exactly that was. But if you type in my name for like all the different translations, it comes up in a lot of different languages, which I didn't even know. And I can't even tell you another interpretation of it. Somewhere it means like grace or blessing, I think, but I don't remember the language. Womp womp.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sazin Khan says, "I tried mentioning Taylor there too, but there weren't enough characters. Anyway, I'm glad I made it to Alive. Have a good day."
We are glad you made it too.
Glad you made it. Thanks for watching all the years. I'm glad you're finally able to super chat. Forearm Game Strong says, "By the way, Amala, yes, Myron is right. It's forever 21, not forever 31, 41, etc. My girl's about to be 27 because I'm not going to date a 35-year-old. No gracias. LOL."
Oh my goodness. So you don't want to date your own age. Tobey Maguire doesn't either. Neither does Leonardo DiCaprio. I just hope that as you age up, the age that you consider for dating also ages up a little bit. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that we
had
don't.
that chart on yesterday's video of Leo dating ages, and it's like the girl age is like flat, and then
Yes.
and his age just keeps going higher.
Awful. Yeah, it's like every year he goes from like 23, she's 24, she's 25, dumped. 21, 22, 23, 25, dumped. Next girlfriend. I think he's with a 20-something-year-old right now, some model somewhere. And him and Tobey Maguire are besties, so besties for the restie.
Yeah, if y'all didn't see yesterday's video on age gaps, specifically Tobey Maguire's being 50, dating a 20-year-old, you can go check that out.
Yeah.
Cadell Comper says, "Not too familiar with your guys' background, but how did you and Taylor meet?"
We met at PragerU. The first time I ever came to PragerU, because Taylor found some of my videos. Sabrina, who also worked at PragerU, found some of my videos, and they were like, "We need to bring this girl in." So I came in, and Taylor and I have worked together ever since.
I was working in the social media marketing department, basically, and working specifically with influencers, and got assigned to working with Amala in addition to the other influencers I was working with. And then we launched our show, and the rest is history.
Yeah, buddy.
We got Rory. John Jackson Grieger says, "I was an atheist activist back in the day, for a horseman guy. That changed when I realized that the world is fundamentally a story and we use abstractions to perceive it. What's Taylor's religious journey?"
Oh.
Wow.
Okay, Taylor.
I don't have a cool realization moment like that. Actually, someone else asked me that on Instagram in DMs, and I'm like, that is such a, I can't.
It's a loaded question.
I can't like reduce that to like an Instagram message that I can just, here's.
Right.
I mean, in descriptive terms, I have a pretty boring story as far as like how I became religious. I was raised a Christian, and my parents living it out had an influence on me for sure. But then it kind of became my thing as well. Maybe I'll find a way to tell that whole story on my channel, since if you guys are interested in that, it's too much to put probably in the super chat time. But thank you for sharing your story and what you're saying about realizing about the world being story and abstractions and stuff. I'm hearing that more. There's like I just read a book called The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God, and it's by Justin Brierley, and I recommend it because I have sensed a shift. Other people have talked about the like hostility toward Christianity, but there is, even in intellectual circles, people like Douglas Murray, author Tom Holland, who are still intellectuals and not Christian, are much more friendly in toward Christianity, given the differences that it has with more fundamentalist religions like Islam, and given the influence that it's had on Western civilization. They're very appreciative of that, even if falling short of actually believing in it. And a big part of that is also understanding the value of narrative and story and how we make sense of the world through stories and the value that the Christian story has brought to the Western world. So I'd encourage you to check that book out if that's where your head is at in that journey.
Nice.
Kelber says political dynasties like Clinton's, Bush's, etc. is the worst kind of nepotism, in my opinion. These people ascend to power / influence or sit on boards simply because of their name. Monarchy vibes. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, that is way worse. If what you do with your nepotism is you end up in films because daddy's a film producer or something like that, that is totally different than you end up president of the United States or, a secretary of treasury or something important that is directly impacting us in so many ways because your family has long since had that power. It's crazy to think that we are electing presidents and cabinet members and senators and families. Nuts. I can see maybe a couple times you see a couple people that happen to be in the same family and they're just really good at public service or something like that. But at the rate that we're looking at it right now,
And we've gone from the Kennedys to the Clintons and the Bushes, and now the Trumps. People are already calling Baron Trump the Lisan al-Gaib.
Gosh.
Gonna be the heir apparent.
Lisan al-Gaib.
I was jokingly saying there's this new video of Baron at a rally or something, and he's just looking all slick. And he's like 6'8" and just like the strapping, handsome young lad. And I sent that clip that was being talked about to my friend Tay, Christian friend, and I was like, I'm calling it now. He's the Antichrist.
That's too funny. Yeah, I never seen him speak. He's just always in this quiet.
Yeah, he's got this but everyone loves him. He drives people crazy, in a good way. They're all just like, yeah, Baron, he's such a Chad. He's such a so interesting.
Funny.
If not that, at least maybe he's the surprise VP pick. I don't know what the age limits are, but could you imagine that Trump would only allow someone
Baron
of his own name to be attached to his ticket or christened as his heir apparent?
Nuts.
There's my tinfoil hat stuff for you guys. Let's see. Queen Eileen says, I can't believe I made it through alive. My toddler usually interrupts me and I have to finish watching after she goes to bed. Love you guys.
Oh, that's a very cute interruption, at least. That is so funny. Your toddler comes in swinging and she's like, girl, get off the phone. It's a valid excuse to miss the live.
Fair enough, yeah.
More than
Almost
fair.
got her own handful that she's got to hand off at the neighbors before we go live now.
Yep, Wemby and Charlie. Wemby's going to be on tomorrow's show about Katy Perry, so keep a lookout for the new pup. He's 8 or 9 weeks old, so he's going to be hanging out, sleeping, doing all different types of stuff in tomorrow's video. So yeah, they are constantly just playing and barking and doing all types of fun stuff downstairs, and I can hear it, but hopefully you guys can't. That's the goal.
And I almost skipped this one, but we'll read it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Forearm Game Strong says, Kings, get you a Latina, but not anything like J-Lo. Even if she's 25% like J-Lo, major red flag. Her first name is Jennifer. Run away from that red flag.
Oh my gosh. I think we can... My sister's first name is Jennifer, although she's not a Latina, so that's fine. He can come in. Hold on. We have a guest. We have a guest coming in. But yeah, no. If your girl is exhibiting J-Lo traits, you probably don't want to date that girl because J-Lo does have some problems, a little bit of narcissism. And this is Wemby. Oh, sorry, Wemby. This is
and
little
the crowd
Wemby.
goes wild.
Woo! He's so cute.
Such a sweet boy.
He's such a cute little boy. So yeah, this is Charlie's little broski now, and they've been hanging out, playing all day. And Wemby will sit and chill for the duration of our super chats.
Yeah, he was very sweet. He made it through the whole recording this morning.
He did.
That the Katy Perry video, which will be coming out tomorrow.
He's a pretty quiet little boy.
spoiler.
Yeah. We won't speak too soon on that because I'm sure things will develop. But he's pretty chill. This guy.
He just got off an airplane this week. He's probably still just readjusting to the whole new world that he's living in.
He did, man. We found out about him because my boyfriend was like, "Oh, we should get Charlie someone to play with because Charlie was getting a little antsy." We found out about him on a Friday, got a message that night that we could pick him up. I got on a plane on Saturday, flew across the country to Florida to grab him, and then brought him back. And now he's been chilling here ever since, having a grand old time.
He's the new star of the show.
Dude, he's
People
so
weren't over Charlie yet, and now you throw this.
I know. Now we got two of them.
Their brains are exploding.
And Charlie's huge now. I can't even pick him up to show you him on camera. That'll be a task. He's like 20 pounds
now. They grow
now.
so fast, don't they?
Yes.
My little kitten
Crazy.
that we got like a month ago is like doubled in size already. It's wild.
Yeah, it's nuts. Anyways, yeah.
Let's see. I think we had a couple more come in here at the buzzer.
Okay.
Chicken Adobo again says, some people ask me if I'm a Christian because I look like a Christian. I didn't understand what they mean until I saw Taylor floating in that bubble.
That's funny. Yeah, I would be asking the same thing. What does it mean to look like a Christian? I don't even know what that means.
Am I on the angel or the devil shoulder for you? I can't.
Oh, I don't know. Which one is which?
Which one's which? I think
You
it's
guys
usually
tell us.
angel on the left.
Uh-oh.
and
Wait,
devil
where
on the
are
right.
you? You're on the left, people who are watching the screen, right? Or are you on the right? No, you're on the right for people
On
who
the
are
right.
watching. Sorry,
I
guys.
think I'm on the good side. I think I'm on the good side.
Lucky you.
And I think we're caught up on Super Chat. Someone said I say pink is Amala's color.
Oh, that's so very sweet. Thank you so much. This is a good time to close out the show. I think Wemby's actually going to fall asleep right here. Oh, woke him up. You heard his name. Guys, thank you so much for watching the show. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with my analysis of Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, and their now daughter, Violet Affleck, who is now speaking out for masks being mandated and air filtration systems put in all our government buildings? Let me know if you agree with anything she said. Let me know if you agree with anything I said. If you disagree with anything I said, you can duke it out in the comments down below, but do so respectfully. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Plus, we post videos for you guys every single day, sometimes featuring this little dude who's sleeping right now, named Wemby. He'll be in tomorrow's video about Katy Perry and a new song that she is releasing titled Woman's World that is pissing off feminists. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys. Bye to Wemby. Okay.